Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are totally tearing down a massive misconception in the business world. The idea that the right price tag simply sells itself. You know, it is incredibly easy to get caught up in the numbers, the margins, the market analysis, the whole shebang. But we're going to dive into the details of why even the most mathematically perfect pricing strategies literally fall flat on their face if you lack the human communication to back them up. It's so easy to assume that if we just calculate the perfect price point, like if all the math adds up perfectly, the product is just going to sell itself, right? We subconsciously rely on that little number on the tag to do all the heavy lifting for us. But the source material we're digging into today actively dismantles that assumption. A perfectly calculated price tag is just not enough on its own. Actually, scratch that. Relying solely on that number is a genuinely dangerous game. Think of this as the strategy illusion. It's this belief that your beautifully crafted, brilliantly researched pricing spreadsheet is the absolute finish line. Well, in reality, that strategy is just an incomplete bridge to your customer. It only takes you halfway there. It kind of just exists in a vacuum. Without the right delivery, your perfect price is nothing more than an illusion of a complete business plan. You could literally have the most competitive price in your entire industry, but if you can't communicate its value, it's virtually useless. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive divide here. On one side, you've got your pricing strategies, the cold, hard numbers, the rigid formulas, the strict math. But on the other side, you have the dynamic human element. And when we talk about communication skills in this context, we really need to get specific. We are talking about active listening, articulating value, reading the room, managing objections, all of it. The math absolutely requires these human skills to actually survive contact with a real live customer. So let's look at exactly what the source text says to really anchor this concept. It states, and I quote, "Pricing strategies would not be meaningful without good communication skills to handle the customers." It really is that stark. Zero communication equals zero meaning. Think about it. You could spend 6 months perfectly optimizing your margins, right? But if your sales rep stutters, gets super defensive, or just lacks confidence when a customer simply asks, "Hey, why does this cost so much?" Poof, that entire pricing strategy evaporates in seconds. Because here's the reality, whenever you present a price to someone, you are inevitably going to face some resistance. It's just human nature. Nobody likes parting with their hard-earned money. Customers are going to hesitate, they'll question the value, or they might just outright reject it at first. But listen, this sticker shock friction, it isn't necessarily a sign that your price is wrong. It's just a natural byproduct of doing business. You've got to anticipate these pricing issues and be completely 100% prepared to address them head on. So how exactly do we prepare for that inevitable friction? Well, the text outlines a very specific learning path. First up, you encounter the friction. You have to actually recognize where the specific pain points are happening. Second, you learn the methods to handle it. And no, this doesn't mean just winging it. It means mastering specific techniques like smoothly pivoting the conversation away from the raw cost and focusing heavily on the return on investment. And finally, you manage the customer effectively to diffuse that tension and, crucially, keep the relationship totally intact. Now, when you handle those issues correctly, you don't end up with a winner and a loser. You arrive at a win-win solution. And honestly, this requires a massive pivot in mindset. Handling customer pushback isn't some battle where one person has to lose. It's a partnership. For example, a win-win might mean adjusting the scope of the service to perfectly fit their budget, rather than just instinctively slashing your price and destroying your own margins. You're basically using your communication skills to build a bridge between their constraints and your value. Let's move to and see how this builds into a highly practical sequence. Step 1, you hit the friction. The customer pushes back on the quote. Step 2, you immediately apply those deliberate communication methods, instead of just stubbornly pointing back at the price tag or getting defensive about it. And step 3, by managing that interaction effectively, you achieve that mutual success. It's a very clear logical progression, taking you straight from a defensive problem to a shared positive resolution. The source text leaves absolutely no ambiguity here. So the crucial point is, the win-win situation is the absolute key to success. It's not just some pleasant little bonus if you can manage it. Without it, your strategy fails and you lose the deal entirely. With it, you protect your margins while creating a fiercely loyal, satisfied customer. This is exactly why mastering the communication around your pricing is just as important, if not way more important, than the actual pricing itself. Which brings us to the ultimate question you really have to ask yourself. Is your pricing strategy creating friction, or is it creating a win-win? I want you to think deeply about your own methods for a second. Are you hiding behind the math, or are you out there actively building the bridge? Well, I'll leave you to reflect on that. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly hope it helps you craft better, more communicative strategies moving forward.